Yeah, yeah.
Reliability.
Reliability in Russian. Надежность. Надежность.
Надежность.
Yeah, reliability. Okay, let's continue our adventure into EDSEL car.
Problems for the customer.
Hello, my dear friends. Hello, my name is Alex and I study English. And today with you, we will watch another recommendation. And this video was recommended by me, me by Matt for Life. Thank you very much, Matt for Life, for your recommendation. And this video will be in our playlist, my reacts to your recommendations. Okay, yeah. This video is named The Short-Lived and Expensive Tale of Words EDSEL. Okay, I think what for me it will be very useful, interesting, and etc. 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 And you can support me. I believe in you and I believe in myself. You can support me, you can leave like and subscribe to me and be my patron. Why not? Yeah, you can be my patron. Oh, yes, I know nothing about cars. I wanted to say I know nothing about them. That's why I think this video will be difficult for me. But anyway, let's find out. Okay. Motion history. Okay.
Ladies
and gentlemen,
Oh,
the Ford Motor Company would like you to see the new styling, the new features of the beautiful new EDSEL.
that's all.
Perhaps one of the most
I like old advertisement, yeah?
famous automotive failures of all time, the EDSEL mark by Ford is a staple of how the success of a car is dictated by more factors than just how many people have heard about it. While Ford attempted to rationalize the disastrous sales record of this short-lived range of cars through marketing and promotion,
Oh,
the
at first, he's talking too fast, yeah. And also the second, it seems for me what he has, of course he has, British accent. Maybe I'm wrong. I will be glad to read your opinion.
bitter truth was that the EDSEL was a loss-making mountain of problems that culminated in one of the most ill-conceived cars ever built.
Let's translate. Let's go. Ill-conceived. And one of my subscriber asked me to say, to pronounce Russian words. I will try to do this in this video. Here I wanted to translate example. Ill-conceived. Yeah? Ill-conceived.
Ill-conceived.
Ill-conceived. Плохо задуманный. Okay. It's so unusual. I'm reading on this channel in Russian language. Okay, let's again. I'm crazy. Let's go. Yeah. Плохо задуманный. Okay, let's go. Let's continue our journey.
So, what's the story? The tale of the EDSEL begins in the mid-1950s, where, in the post-war economic boom, car production in the United States was soaring.
Soaring. Car production was soaring. It was in mid 50s, yeah? Soaring, I don't know this. Oh, no. So R. There was soaring. And of course, car production was soaring. It means not this meaning. Here, парящий. But here we can, it's better for this contest. Высокий. Высокий. I think it's better. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, I'm bad expert in English.
At the top, the Detroit Big Three were battling it out for glory, with Ford and General Motors dominating the scene, while Chrysler followed closely behind. It was an era where austerity was considered a curse word, and flamboyance was key to a product's success, with cars of this time period being lavishly appointed with lashings of chrome, sweeping profiles, and streamlined fins.
Okay. He said very fast this, I will not translate every word, but anyway, I get it.
On January 17, 1956, the Ford Motor Company became a publicly traded corporation, taking it partially out of the hands of the Ford family, under which it had originally been founded by Henry Ford in 1903.
Oh, Henry Ford, of course everybody knows about him, and for me it will be interesting a little more about his life. Maybe I will understand his life better. Henry Ford. Oh, fail also we can find Ford quotes. Henry Ford. Okay. Let's took a little look. Okay. He was oh, one moment. He was born in 1863? Come on. Oh, and he died at the age 83. Wow. I didn't know this. And here we can see his house. Oh, it looks beautiful. I want to have such beautiful house. Maybe 2 floors with 2 floors. Yeah. Anyway, I think what he had interesting life.
With the new change of management, executives in the Ford company had noticed that their exclusive luxury mark, Lincoln, was struggling to compete with the General Motors equivalent, Cadillac.
Cadillac, yeah.
As Cadillac had become the face of American motoring glamour, Lincolns were falling down the price bracket, instead largely competing against middling Oldsmobiles and Buicks.
Buicks, I never heard about it. Is it models of cars? I never heard about this before.
At the time, Ford's brand structure consisted of 3 marks: the luxury Lincoln at the top, Mercury for entry-level premium cars, and the Ford name itself for low-end family models.
Yeah.
By comparison, General Motors had the luxury Cadillac, Buick for executive motors,
Buick. Yes, Buick.
Oldsmobile for entry-level premium models, and Chevrolet for low-end family cars. To counter this, Ford executives chose to create a new...
I like it. I like when... at first I want to say you, this video I like from first... from first seconds when he started to do to show to us this old advertisement, and here we can see old also videos from those time. And for people who like history, it's very important to see this, especially if he's talking about car which now not producing. Yeah, am I right? And anyway, I like his way, and also I like what's behind of his voice. He's using this music. I think what this music also from the past, from how he said mid 50s. Yeah, mid 50s.
New medium-priced car division equivalent to Oldsmobile, while pushing Lincoln and Mercury upmarket to make them comparable to Cadillac and Buick.
Comparable.
In addition, Lincoln's top-of-the-range model, the Continental, would become its own ultra-luxury marque, designed to rival the likes of the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud.
Oh, Rolls-Royce. Of course, I think everybody knows about Rolls-Royce. One moment. Rolls-Royce. Because it's a luxury. Always something expensive. Yeah, maybe they have cheaper models, but I don't know.
Market research into the development of a marque that would sit in the same bracket as Oldsmobile had begun as early as 1955, and was dubbed the experimental car, or E-car.
Oh, I get it. experimental. One moment again. Experiment. Okay, I will do it. Experimental car. It means E. First word, letter. E-day. Yeah.
The target demographic for the e-car was identified as young professionals on their way up, and considered that these were people who had the money to buy cars of a higher luxury level than humdrum Fords, but not enough to buy top-end Lincolns. With their market identified, people of this category were asked what they expected to find in a car that would befit their pay bracket and social standing. With the feedback
It's wonderful when they're asking people how they want to see their car of dream, and it's really good. Yeah.
to guide the design.
Yeah.
For young professionals, they were looking for a car that stood out at any angle, a machine that would turn heads and
Stood out. Any angle. I think. I hope I get it.
announced their arrival with a pronounced hood and grille, reminiscent of pre-war Packards and LaSalle's. At the same time, the car needed to be contemporary with the space-age styling trend of the mid-50s, with an aviation-style interior and controls, chrome, fins, and powerful engines.
One moment. He said 3 words, powerful engines. Of course, I get it. But also, he said.
With an aviation-style interior and controls, chrome, fins,
Chrome, fins. At first, I want to translate fins. Fins. I don't know. Oh, I get it. Fins. And chrome. I think I get it too. And what I want to say, when we are watching it, when I am watching it, old cars, for me, they at first reminding you that, for me, they're reminding past where I never was, and it's a very interesting experience, and I like this. Really, and when you're touching them, especially, I think it's like it's very interesting too,
and powerful engines.
because you can imagine what this car was maybe older than you, and also this car now more expensive, and this car has history, etc. So many events happened with this car, and I think people who are collecting old cars, I'm understanding them. Not only old cars, but also older things. Yeah.
There were, however, initial stumbling points for the e-car mark, most notably the name. The car couldn't go under the name e-car forever, nor could it easily enter sales as the experimental car.
Yeah.
To counter this problem, Ford turned to advertising firm Foote Conan Belding to come up with a name, eventually considering 6,000 possibilities, much to the chagrin of Ford Executive Vice President Ernest Beach, who had only wanted one.
Yeah.
Among the 6,000 names conjured, early favourites for the brand included Citation, Corsair, Pacer, and Ranger, and these would ultimately end up as the model names rather than the mark itself. Still at an impasse, David Wallace, manager of marketing research, and co-worker Bob Young, unofficially invited freethinker poet Marianne Moore for input and suggestions. However, Moore's modernist and somewhat unorthodox considerations gave rise to such oddities as the utopian turtle top, the pastelogram, the Turcatinga, the resilient bullet, the andante con moto, and the mongoose civique.
If I'm understanding correctly, they were trying to use this example of this animal as example for their car. They're trying to give shape from these examples. I don't know. It's interesting.
Fortunately, as these names were only meant to stir creative thought, and as Moore was under no contractual obligation to supply a title, none of these weird ideas made it beyond their meeting.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Eventually, out of sheer desperation, the marketing team had settled on an idea that had been circulating since early in the marque's development: EDSEL.
EDSEL.
This name was a homage to Edsel B. Ford, the son of Henry Ford and president of the company between 1919 and 1943.
And Henry Ford has had a son. Yeah, here we can see, I think, maybe children. Edsel Ford. Oh, wow, I did this. I found Edsel Ford, and here we can find his picture also. It's nice. What? He died in aged 49. It's interesting what's happened with him. He had stomach cancer. Even rich people can't escape death. Yeah. Yeah, let's continue.
As well as being the father of the company's then current president, Henry Ford II. Going somewhat behind Ford's back, Ernest Beach officially declared that the new marque would be dubbed the EDSEL at a board meeting that Henry Ford was conveniently absent from. Naturally, the use of the EDSEL moniker invoked the ire of the Ford family, with Henry Ford himself stating that he did not want his father's good name spinning around on thousands of hubcaps. To further cement the problems with the choice of EDSEL as the title, Ford ran surveys outside movie theatres to gather audience reactions to the name, to which they reached no conclusion. Aside from Henry Ford's complaints about the name, there were other vocal critics of the EDSEL marque within the company management, most notably Robert McNamara. McNamara had been hired by Ford immediately after World War II, as the company was teetering on bankruptcy and thus required a significant change in its internal policy and management structure. McNamara was one of 10 ex-US Air Force veterans, dubbed the Whiz Kids, who helped to reverse the fortunes of the firm, McNamara's cost-cutting and cost-containment skills standing out among the rest. In a manner similar to the original Henry Ford, McNamara was solely focused on developing the Ford marque itself, while its subsidiary marques such as Lincoln, Mercury, Continental and EDSEL were seen as superfluous.
Oh my gosh, I don't know this word again, but I believe I will translate, of course. One moment.
Marque itself, while its subsidiary marques such as Lincoln, Mercury, Continental and EDSEL were seen as
superfluous. We're seen as superfluous. Superfluous. Okay.
Superfluous.
Yeah, this word's more advanced for me. Yeah.
Superfluous. Therefore, when the proposal was made to create the EDSEL division, as well as the individual Continental, Lincoln and Mercury divisions, McNamara vehemently opposed the idea, instead considering that the marques should be consolidated into a single division called MEL, Mercury EDSEL Lincoln. It was in this capacity that he proved to be the voice of reason behind the scenes to Ford's rather...
I like such photos. I like them. I can imagine these moments when people, photographers said to him, took this, look at this, and froze. I can imagine this because, of course, now people are trying to do this for their Instagrams, and it's very interesting. When you see it, all the pictures, you can feel those time. Yeah.
The rash creation of new marques like EDSEL and Continental, eventually spelling doom for the both of them. In the meantime, the EDSEL's first range of models underwent development, with styling for the car based entirely on market research gathered and seemingly incorporating many different features from a variety of other popular cars. Initially, the EDSEL marque consisted of 7 models: the Ranger 2-door sedan, the Pacer 4-door sedan,
one moment, I like this model, it's number 2. Yeah.
Initially, the EDSEL marque consisted of 7 models: the Ranger 2-door sedan, the Pacer 4-door
Yeah, I like this white and blue color. Looks beautiful.
sedan, the
Together.
Corsair 2-door and 4-door hardtop, the Citation 2-door drop top, the Roundup 2-door station wagon, the Villager 4-door station wagon, and the high-end Bermuda 4-door station wagon. Among these cars, they followed the same general styling cues of long sweeping curves, scallops in the profile, round 4-lamp light clusters, and rear fins. However, the most controversial addition to the car was the fitting of a giant vertical oval grille.
Controversial. Twice I'm hearing this word in this controversial. Yeah,
Controversial.
controversial. Okay, I think I understand. Oh, I want to read you in Russian also because you asked me. Controversial in Russian. Спорный. Спорный. Controversial. Okay. Спорный.
Penned by assistant stylist Bob Jones and done in response to the feedback from market research desiring the fitting of such an element. Although original concept drawings by EDSEL chief designer Roy Brown were envisaged as very slender, with an almost delicate opening in the centre, the choice of such a gaping hole in the front of the car was settled on due to engineering reasons, with the fear being that cooling problems for the engine would arise from having such a small intake.
Yeah.
Final input on the design was made by Breach, who demanded that it be both taller and wider, so it was a major part of the car's face and image.
Yeah, the thrill starts with the grill and never seems to end. Nice.
Without the grille, the EDSEL's look would be somewhat comparable to contemporary Oldsmobiles and Buicks, but with the grille, it took on a unique and distinctive stance, one the designers would later regret.
Stance. Distinctive stance. Stance, Stance? Stance, of course, stance. And in Russian, stance. Let's listen Russian.
Позиция.
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 Позиция. Okay, let's continue. Stance.
Another odd choice was the arrow-shaped taillights for the station wagon models. In order to give the cars a unique rear styling, they were fitted with sheet metal lights that pointed inwards, but gave the impression to drivers behind that, when the indicators were running, the arrows were pointing to the intended direction of travel, the right indicator pointing left, and the left indicator pointing right.
Oh.
Despite later
It's
complaints about these
confusing.
lights causing driver confusion, the management insisted that no sheet metal could be changed.
Yeah, of course it's confusing.
Internally, the car once again attempted to meet the demands of market research by providing extremely complicated driver features. As standard, the car was fitted with interior styling cues like a rolling dome speedometer, warning lights for such conditions as low oil level, parking brake engaged, and engine overheating, ergonomically designed controls for the driver, self-adjusting brakes, seat belts, which were optional extras on other models,
Yeah.
and child-proof rear door locks that could only be unlocked with the key.
Yeah, and it's
Most notable-
interesting what this car had so many themes. And yeah, I'm understanding why this car was expensive.
Of all was the Teletouch push-button automatic transmission selector, a system pioneered on the EDSEL after years of research and development. The
Teletouch system is something I never heard about this before.
Teletouch system had been conceived by Ford in the early 1950s, and was based on earlier developments in solenoid-driven transmission shift devices for a standard sliding gear gearbox.
What?
This electromechanical push-button transmission system placed the transmission buttons in a ring within the center of the steering wheel, providing more space on the dashboard and removing the need for a gear handle on the center console.
I will not try even translate this because he's using terminology which I don't understand, and it will be, I know I will forget. this after a few minutes. But because in Russian I don't know how cars working. I mean, I don't know all these details. Yeah, it's always difficult for me.
While the low-end Ranger, Pacer and station wagon models maintained a traditional automatic transmission, high-end Corsair and Citation models came with the Teletouch as standard. For power, the MEL division of Ford chose to create a brand new power plant for the Edsel model, that being the MEL V8, which replaced the older Lincoln Y-block power plant of 1952.
Yes, this pipeline was innovation, yeah?
For Edsel models, the high-end Citation and Corsair came with a 410 cubic inch or 6.7 litre Edsel E475 V8 engine.
6.7 liter. Yeah, it's big, I can say.
While the lower range models comprised a motley crew of Ford inline-6 and V8 engines, with displacements ranging between 3.7 litres and 5.9 litres.
Yeah, it's a lot. Good, it's not a lot, but it's good in those times. We must remember what it was in the mid-50s. Yeah.
In terms of performance, the Edsel models were generally comparable to its rivals, with the Citation presenting a 0-60 time of 7.4 seconds, a top speed of 123 miles an hour, and an average fuel consumption of 11.8 miles.
Top speed was 23 miles. I want to know how much is it. Yeah, miles to kilometers. Oh, I'm so often using this. It's yeah, 37 kilometers, and yeah, it's I don't know how was it good if we will compare with other cars in those time, but anyway, it's better than going by yourself.
By contrast, the Buick Series 70 Roadmaster Riviera presented a 0-60 time of 9.9 seconds, a top speed of 119 miles an hour, and an average fuel consumption of 12 miles per gallon. As a startup marque, Edsel had no dedicated assembly plants, with all models sharing the production line with contemporary Ford and Mercury models.
And here we can see it is example of mass production, which was innovation from Henry Ford about mass production. I've watched maybe a few years ago a documentary movie. Of course, in those time I didn't study English, and I watched this documentary in Russian language. And anyway, it was very interesting, but I don't remember from those time anything.
Every Edsel was tested, measured, and assigned a quality score as it came off the line, with the daily shipment of cars to dealerships being dictated by the average quality score of every car built that day. Despite all the background problems regarding the Edsel's development, September 4th, 1957 was declared E-Day by Ford, who went all out with promoting the launch of their new model range.
Yeah, E-Car, E-Day, and I remember it's Experience Car, Experience Day, and yeah, it was very interesting, I think, to name this day like E-Day.
The Edsel models entered sales at prices on par with Mercury's of the time, with the low-end Ranger starting at $2,484, the Pacer at $2,700, the Corsair at $3,311, and the Citation topping the range at $3,500.
Oh my god.
With options, the Citation reached a price of $3,766.
Yeah, it's too much.
On October 13th, a top-rated television special called The EDSEL Show was broadcast, an hour-long program starring Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Rosemary Clooney, Louis Armstrong, Lindsay Crosby, the Four Preps, and Bob Hope.
Now I'm understanding why this car was so expensive. Come on. Yeah. They had own
The sole
TV
purpose
show.
of this TV special was to raise awareness of the brand name, and was presented as a musical variety show that garnered favourable reviews from contemporary critics, even winning the Look Magazine TV Award for Best Musical Show, as well as being nominated for an Emmy as the Best Single Program of the Year.
Oh.
However, despite E-Day bringing approximately 3 million people to Ford showrooms across America and Canada, very few people actually went home with an EDSEL for a variety of reasons.
And here we can understand how close the economy of the USA and Canada, and they depend from each other. Can I say so? Especially Canada from the USA. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, even in those time, Canada was involved in USA economy. It means a lot for understanding for me.
The first bone of contention was the name of the brand, EDSEL.
EDSEL.
The truth was that the EDSEL mark, to the paying customer, had no meaning unless they possessed some prior knowledge of the inner management structure of the Ford company. Among a sea of marks that usually adopted either the name of their company founder, Rolls-Royce, Ford, Buick, or were based on historical figures, Lincoln, Mercury, Cadillac, EDSEL stood out as something very obscure and unidentifiable.
Yeah, but of course he was unidentifiable because he was just son of Henry Ford. Of course he was rich, of course he was from a rich family, etc, etc, etc. But this was company of Ford. Yeah, and Ford was understandable. Everybody knows and now know Ford, but EDSEL, I never heard about him too. And in those time, for people, I think if you will ask them, do you know EDSEL? Who is EDSEL? Nobody will know. Most of them, I think, will not have answer. Of course, it's just my suggestion. Yeah.
Next was the pricing, which failed to justify the brand's existence overall in comparison to other models in the Mel lineup.
Mainline, yeah. No.
The very concept of the EDSEL was to fit into a price bracket between low-cost Ford models and premium Mercury models, but instead was priced almost identically to its kin. Instead of having a series of stepped price brackets that covered each market segment, the 1957 EDSEL Ranger, for instance, cost almost exactly the same as the Ford Fairlane 500 and the Mercury Medalist, while the Pacer cost nearly the same as the Monterey, and the Citation cost nearly the same as the Montclair. The only instance of the EDSEL coming in as a less costly option than a Mercury was between the Citation and the Park Lane, but this couldn't hide the multitude of sins being put front and center for the lower EDSEL models. A question was very quickly on the lips of customers. Why buy an EDSEL of questionable origin when you could just as easily buy a Mercury for the same price and guarantee you know what you're getting?
Yeah, especially if in those model, in EDSEL model, I mean, wasn't always working. Was things which oh my god, was things which didn't work sometimes. Maybe I'm wrong, but
To further add to the EDSEL's woes was its timing, as Europe, Canada, and the United States were struck by an economic recession that began towards the end of 1957, known as the Eisenhower Recession. The recession, the first since the end of World War II, was caused due to a general slowdown in economic activity and pressure on businesses for supply to meet demand.
Yeah.
Essentially, the excessive mass production of the post-war boom caused the economy to trip itself over, and what began was a year-long economic slump that resulted in many businesses shutting down and the price of living to rise. As such, sales for many of America's luxury and high-end motors faced a significant decline, with overall car sales falling 31% by the end of 1957. Exacerbated by the EDSEL's poor pricing, which put it in league with the Mercury mark rather than bridging the gap between it and lower-end Fords, the mark suffered an equal drop in its prospective sales, failing to meet forecasts.
Yeah.
Even without the Eisenhower recession, though, the EDSEL, as a medium-priced car range, was entering into a shrinking market.
I want to see this picture. Look at those if we are looking now in the past, at the past, and looks very unusual, and it's the most important here what this video in color. It's not black and white video. It's in color and it's nice. We can see how people were trying to be progressive. They used to many 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 8 line roads. Oh my gosh, it's too much. Yeah, and it was a time when people were trying to be more individual, yeah.
Market as marques and companies were consolidated. Market trends were moving away from medium-range models, with a new breed of compact cars, such as the Rambler American by AMC, and economy cars like the Volkswagen Beetle and the Austin America, emerging to undercut larger models. In essence, smaller models sold by Ford were being moved up into the medium car bracket, as compacts burrowed in beneath them on the market, and thus builders who specialized in creating medium-range models, such as Studebaker, faced demise.
Studebaker. I never heard about this, and it looks like Pepsi, symbol of Pepsi.
A far more reasonable choice, considering these altering market trends, would have been for the EDSEL marque to instead propose a series of compact and economy cars beneath the Ford brand to compete directly with the likes of the Rambler American and the Beetle. As is, Breach considered that medium-range cars of the manner in which the EDSEL suggested were not a dying breed, and steamrollered the concept regardless of what market research was telling him. Problems weren't just in the pricing and timing of the car, but also in the build. While much of the EDSEL's mechanics were based on contemporary Ford models of the era, there were still a number of differences that the line workers struggled to adapt to. On the mass production Ford and Mercury lines, workers were conditioned to assemble models of the same type over and over again, which they did with a certain degree of success.
Yeah.
However, throwing an EDSEL model in at every 8th and 10th car meant that workers assembling these machines had to build the cars in a different manner, which also had to be done in a timely fashion so as not to reduce the plant output.
Oh yeah, I get it.
The result was many aspects of the EDSEL cars being put together either hastily or incorrectly, resulting in reliability problems for the customer.
Reliability. You said reliability? One moment, I want to see this. Either hastily. I wanted to translate hastily. And reliability. Hastily. Yeah.
Hastily.
Yeah, I was guessing right. It's good for me.
Cars being put together either hastily or incorrectly, resulting in reliability.
Reliability, yeah. Reliability. Yeah.
Reliability.
Reliability in Russian. Надежность.
Надежность.
Yeah, reliability. Okay, let's continue our adventure into EDSEL car.
Problems for the customer. Not every car that left the factory with problems, though, was due to the inexperienced workforce, with some workers deliberately singling out the EDSEL models for sabotage due to the fact that they shared the same name as the former company president.
I like, again, I want to say what I like how it looks. Look at this man. He was checking everything. He has own notes where he must write something about something. And yes, it's a very interesting picture. And yeah, it is, they're real people. And they were living in those time. Yeah, it's very interesting. I like sometimes to watch historical videos, and it's wonderful what this video has such Shootage, yeah?
Some
Shootage?
workers deliberately singling out the EDSEL models for sabotage due to the fact that they shared the same name as the former company president.
Here we go.
The American labor union, United Automobile Workers, had poor memories of Edsel Ford due to his constant locking horns with them, and thus chose to deliberately build the cars that bore his name in an improper manner simply to spite his memory. This wasn't helped by the Edsel's average reliability scoring for daily batches of cars. The average score was based on the number of cars that left the factory without significant faults, but this was an arbitrary figure that meant that, if the average score was just over the acceptable minimum, then a significant number of cars would still be shipped to the showroom with reliability problems.
Yeah.
While the problem cars should have had their faults rectified at the factory, Ford chose instead to push the problem downstream, and even on cars that were evidently poorly built, including loose body panels and broken mechanics, they passed on notes to the showroom, explaining how to finish off the barely assembled units.
Of course, when you're paying a lot of money for a car, you want to have a reliability car. I just wanted to use this word. That's why I created this sentence.
In some cases, loose pieces of trim or other poorly fitted parts were placed in the trunk of the car for the showroom mechanics to fix when they were delivered. Aside from poor reliability, the cars also presented a number of design flaws which made them unpopular among both customers and mechanics alike. The Teletouch push-button automatic transmission was a highly complex piece of equipment and was seen by drivers as a problematic gimmick that replaced the horn button on the steering wheel hub. Thus, when drivers attempted to blow the horn, they'd accidentally change gears instead.
He's using words like thus, I think, in real life. I mean, in conversation between people, not everybody using such words. Maybe he's using thus example because it is a documentary. Maybe it's my just suggestion. But anyway, for me it will be interesting to know: are you using such words in your conversation, in your speech, like though, nevertheless, and thus? Oh yeah. For me, it's interesting to know your opinion.
Furthermore, the control wires for the Teletouch system were routed too close to the exhaust manifold, which often caused unpredictable movement of the selector mechanism and, in some cases, complete failure.
And again, unpredictable. I can't imagine. Maybe I know. Yes, I know nothing about English. I'm just a learner. But I use such words like unpredictable. I don't know. Yeah, it's very interesting. It was so unpredictable for me. I think more people will say it was surprise for me. Yeah, it's more comfortable surprise than unpredictable.
Another problem was that the electrical design required drivers to shift from park to reverse to neutral to drive in that order to avoid overloading the Teletouch motor.
Yeah.
This motor was also not powerful enough to bring the car out of park while on a hill, so dealerships would instruct drivers to set the parking brake before pushing the park button. Issues were also encountered with the design of the E475 engine, as the cylinder heads were set at an angle with the roof pistons forming both a squish zone on the one side and a combustion chamber on the other.
And look at this old advertisement, how he's standing right near this engine, and how he's showing his intelligent from his position, how he's standing, I mean this. And yeah, it's very interesting type of advertisement, because now I think people not using, but maybe I'm wrong. People are using these tricks even nowadays.
Combustion thus took place entirely within the cylinder bore, and mechanics were unable to confidently repair the engine due to a lack of distinct combustion chambers. Based on these problems, a staggering 16% of EDSEL owners reported poor workmanship. These included both mechanical and build quality concerns with the car. Even the test cars presented to motoring critics had faults, with the test car used by Popular Mechanics illustrating a badly leaking trunk during rain and the odometer showing fewer than actual miles travelled. The biggest and most jarring issue with the EDSEL, however, was its ever-present horse collar grille. The vertical, elongated oval intake yoked to the front was a point of derision from the moment the car was unveiled, and by far the car's most notable trait, giving rise to a cavalcade of jokes and jeers.
People were doing jokes about this stuff. Yeah.
Aside from being noted as reminiscent of a horse collar, the grille was also parallel to a toilet seat, the expression one pulls when sucking lemons, and, most vulgarly of all, a woman's privates.
I get it. All people are naked under their clothes.
With such easily identifiable and profoundly ugly styling, no one wanted to be seen driving these cars, which served to tip the iceberg of the EDSEL's many other design, build, and image problems. In fact, in one famous instance when Vice President Richard Nixon was on a state visit to Lima, Peru, crowds of people threw eggs at him and the EDSEL Corsair he was riding in, to which he famously stated that they were throwing eggs at the car, not him. Surprisingly though, despite the EDSEL mark coming in below its expected sales forecast, the car represented the second largest launch for any new American car brand to date, selling 63,110 cars in the USA and 4,935 in Canada during its first year of production.
Maybe I'm wrong, but of course they did even show for this car, and of course it's meaning something. Yeah. And 73,000, it's really a lot. Yeah.
This number is only exceeded by the launch of the DeSoto brand under Chrysler way back in 1929, where 81,000 units were sold during the marque's first year. The EDSEL also gained international notoriety when a four-door Citation was purchased and delivered in October 1957 to the United Kingdom for the Duke of Bedford, but the current whereabouts of this celebrity car are unknown. Regardless, in the face of the EDSEL's seemingly calamitous sales entry, Ford descended into full damage control mode. Having convinced themselves that their marketing campaigns, including E-Day and the EDSEL TV special, hadn't reached a wide enough audience, despite the fact that customer feedback was proving otherwise, the Ford management decided to pull out all the stops to get the car promoted. While there were the controversial slew of billboards and TV commercials, public relations executive Walter "Tommy" Thomas decided to take it a step further by offering customers a pony with their car.
What?
The most surprising thing about this was that this outlandish idea actually passed muster, and, in association with the primetime
I don't understand. Pony?
TV show Wagon Train, customers who agreed to test drive an EDSEL would have their name entered into a lottery at a dealership, and the lucky winner would receive a live pony as a pet.
It sounds unbelievable, crazy. It's a really crazy idea. Because, come on, you wanted to have car, but you received pony for... Yeah, it's strange. You must feed your...
This idea went over about as well as you'd expect. To support this very strange promotional campaign, Ford purchased 1,000 Appaloosa ponies and had them shipped to EDSEL dealers across America.
Yeah.
This created a severe rift between the dealers and the Ford management, as not only were they burdened with finishing the assembly of the cars they received, as well as dealing with the numerous customer complaints regarding reliability, but now they had to buy food and clean up after live ponies that were kept on site. While, at the encouragement of their children, many parents did test drive an EDSEL, the winners of the lottery chose instead to take the alternative cash prize of $200, or around $1,700 in 2020. The failure of the campaign, together with the discontent it spawned between the management and the dealers, meant it was soon curtailed, and the animals were shipped back to Detroit. Following this, Ford finally realized that the problem wasn't promotion, but the car itself, and chose to undertake a downsizing of the range to try and recoup its substantial losses. For the 1959 model year, only the low-end Ranger and the high-end Corsair were made available, these two cars being based on the underpinnings of Ford models, while those based on Mercury products were discontinued.
Yeah, I get it.
As the top-of-the-range replacement for the Pacer, the Corsair was now offered as a 2-door and 4-door hardtop, 2-door and 4-door sedan, and the Villager station wagon.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. If you have a such car, it's interesting to know your experience about this. Maybe, yeah. I think now such cars are more expensive, yeah. And yeah, of course, if this car have good condition, this car can drive to you, yeah. I think in this situation, this car is expensive. And we must remember, of course, model of this car. But anyway, for me, it's interesting to know what is your favorite car. Maybe you have own opinion about this. I will be glad to read your comments about this. Yeah.
Mechanically, the car abandoned the troublesome teletouch system in favor of a more conventional Marlomatic 2-speed automatic transmission and a dual power drive 3-speed automatic transmission. The MEL V8 was also removed from the EDSEL range, with only the 5.4-litre Ford FE V8 being offered in the Corsair, while the Ranger was provided with both inline-6 and V8 power plants, depending on trim. Most notably, though, was the toning down of the styling. While the vertical grille was still present, it was now presented with a fine bar pattern to cover up the gawking intake, and looked largely comparable to contemporary Pontiacs. In essence, the Ranger and the Corsair looked externally the same, and could only be distinguished through trim options. At the same time, the cars were stylistically similar to the contemporary Ford Fairlane, and were easily mistaken at a glance. Of the many Ford executives who struggled to see a reason behind continuing the ailing EDSEL, the most vocal of them was Robert McNamara, who had recently brought about the end of the Continental marque after only one full year of use. By the middle of 1959, McNamara had succeeded in vetoing the marque's excessive advertising budget, and now, with money pouring from the division, he went in for the kill. Convincing Henry Ford II and the company management that the marque had no future and that the loss-making EDSEL division should be axed before it bled the company dry, Ford announced on November 19, 1959 that the EDSEL division would be discontinued, although production of cars would continue until the end of the month.
Yeah.
Following this announcement, values for EDSEL products dropped by as much as $400, or $3,500 in 2020, and dealers scrambled to reinvigorate newspaper advertising contracts involving the 1960 EDSEL models, while others dropped the name from their dealerships' advertising entirely. The press release by Ford was followed by the distribution of coupons by the company to customers who had purchased the 1960 model EDSEL cars, which were valued at $300 to $400 towards the purchase of new Ford products to offset the decreased values of the EDSEL models.
Yeah, I get it.
The company also issued credits to dealers for stock unsold or received following the announcement. In the end, only 116,000 EDSELs were sold, which represented less than half the company's projected break-even for the entire project. More worryingly was the fact that 118,287 cars had been produced overall, 7,440 of which being from Ford's factory in Ontario, Canada, meaning that, by the end of the project, 2,287 units were left unsold.
And of course, this project was a real failure. They spent so much money for promotion, and they had own show. But anyway, it wasn't about promotion. Mistake was in this car, and yeah, of course, it wasn't a really problem for company. I think
Ford had lost $350 million on the venture, which equates to approximately $3 billion in 2020.
It's a lot.
Following the end of the EDSEL, questions echoed across the American motor industry as to what caused its downfall.
Yeah.
Initially, Robert McNamara and his harsh policies towards Ford's subsidiary brands were vilified, but the truth of the matter was that he saw the car for what it was, a poorly designed and poorly built failure. There was no single reason as to the collapse of the Edsel. It truly was a perfect storm of timing, design, build quality, marketing, and management.
Yeah.
While the concept did have its merits when conceived in 1955, by the time the car was launched in 1957, the American auto market had changed substantially, and this, coupled to the car's widely maligned styling and attempts at innovation that came across as gimmicks, only fueled its demise.
What? We did it. Yeah? Yeah, we did this video. We watched this together video about Edsel car, Ford's Edsel. And it was really interesting. Sometimes it was funny because, come on. And I want to say thank you, Matt for Life, for your recommendation. I appreciate it very much because I think for me it was really useful. I know this. I found a lot of words. Some words, of course, I didn't translate because, yeah. But anyway, I think what this video showed me how sometimes promotion, quality of products are important, and yeah, promotion. I think they did everything for promotion, and here, but ponytail. It's too much. Yeah, but anyway, thank you for watching with me this video. I will be glad to read your opinion about this model, about this car. I will be glad to read your comments about this. And yeah, you can leave me a like and subscribe to me. And also, you can find my Patreon. I appreciate it very much. And yes, of course, see you next time.